Hello class. So breaking forces into their components of x and y is what this video is going to focus on. So definitely do take notes on this. So first of all, I just want to do a quick vocab. Components is, or components are, forces, or really any sort of vector quantity broken into x and y. Oops, spelled broken wrong. Broken into x and y. What I mean by this, the example is, say we have some sort of force going in this direction. This is the same as that same amount that it goes up plus the same amount it goes across. So this would be your y, and this would be your x. X, y, y. So these right here are your components. So that is what we want to do today, is start breaking forces into their components. So at the end of this, you should be able to solve this problem. So we have a tug-of-war battle. So you should know who wins between a tug-of-war match of Abraham Lincoln, SpongeBob, and My Little Pony, where Abraham Lincoln is pulling with a force of 400 newtons, SpongeBob is pulling with a force of 250 newtons, and My Little Pony is pulling with a force of 250 newtons. Both of them are pulling at an angle that is 37 degrees off the horizontal. So we need to figure out, break each one of SpongeBob's and My Little Pony's into its components so that we can then use our beautiful sigma equations of force in the x direction and acceleration in the x direction and force in the y direction and acceleration in the y direction. So remember, this is equal to right minus the left, this is equal to the up minus the down. So, but we need to use SOHCAHTOA. Hopefully that rings a bell with you. We have gone over it in class, and you definitely have gone over it in math. Remember, it's sine over hypotenuse, cosine, so adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent opposite over adjacent. So we need to break this into components. Let's start with SpongeBob. So this right here is your hypotenuse, the 250. This is now your y component for SpongeBob, and this is your y component for My Little Pony. And then if you do the x component right here, this is x for SpongeBob, x for My Little Pony. And now you see, oh look, here's our right angle in here. And depending on which rule you want to use, you can solve for any one of these angles with this 37. That would make this angle right here 37, and this angle 37, and that would make this angle 90 minus 37, which is 53. So this angle would be 53. However, I'm going to keep it simple and focus on this angle right here, which, to clarify, is 37 on both of them. So using this angle of 37, this is our theta, we now got to figure out what our x and y are. So we do want to use SOHCAHTOA to solve this. Either way, we do have to use the hypotenuse. You will have to use both sine and cosine for this, generally. So if we do sine of our angle 37 is equal to the opposite. Our opposite is the y. So over our y, times over, so our y over our hypotenuse, which is 250 newtons. And then for the other one, same thing, except now we want to find the adjacent, which is our x, so it'd be still 37, but now we do cosine of our x over the 200, and I just wrote 300, I know, 250 newtons, which is our hypotenuse. So solve these both. Remember, this has to be moved over, so you're going to multiply both sides by 250, pause it, solve it, and try to figure out who wins after you break it into components. So if you solve this and you round both of them for the sine, which remember was our y, you get 150 newtons. And since both SpongeBob and My Little Pony are pulling with the same strength at the same angle, both of these are going to be 150 newtons, just in opposite directions. And then the cosine for this, or the x component, gives you 200 newtons. So again, both SpongeBob and My Little Pony are pulling with 200 newtons in the x direction, but they are pulling in the same direction. So a quick little, if we look at sigma Fy, where that is equal to the up minus the down, and also equal to the m and acceleration in the y direction, we can say that, oh look, it's 150 minus 150 is equal to the mass, which we do not know, but it doesn't really matter, and acceleration in the y direction, because this is equal to 0, and our mass cannot be 0 of our rope, so that means that our acceleration in the y direction must also be 0. Then we do the same thing, this was in the y direction, do the same thing, but in the x direction, so that is our left, or our right minus the left. We have 200 plus 200 on the right. Both My Little Pony and SpongeBob are pulling 200 minus the 400 from Abraham Lincoln. Again, we get 0 from this equals m times a in the x direction. So our acceleration is 0. So who wins? Drum roll. And of course, if they're accelerating in no direction, nobody's winning. It is a tie. Hopefully this was informative. We will go over this much more on Monday.